Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hair by Kate YouTube channel and another episode of 1000 Ways to Dye. Today I'm going to be sharing a portion of a class demo that I recorded for the Salon-Centric Beauty Gurus featuring our new Wild Ride collection. So stay tuned to see exactly how I created this look. And as always, for more info, more in-depth classes, check out the link in the description box down below. Pleasure, I would love to introduce you guys to the Wild Ride collection. This is my model Ariel, and we've pre-lightened her hair to a pretty clean level 9-10. So this is going to be our starting point for our Wild Ride demo today. In just a second, we're going to get into sectioning and how I'm going to apply these colors. But before we begin our sectioning, I want to go ahead and show you how I'm going to mix these colors and formulate them for our palette today. The first color that we're going to be using today is our new shade First Base. This is a hot pink shade, and to me it's almost like that perfect mix of Cupid and Candy combined, which is my go-to pink color. Every single time I need a hot pink, but now I don't even have to do that because First Base is going to be that perfect mixture of the two already pre-made for us. Now again, because this is a semi, I'm not going to be mixing it with any developer. I am going to be using it straight from the tube. And for today's look, I am going to be using this color straight from the tube without mixing anything with it because I really want to demo how these colors look on their own. So as we can see, this is going to be such an amazing pink shade. It's got so much vibrancy to it, but a little more depth than Candy has on its own. The next shade that I'm going to be using is Acid Spill. This is a lime green shade, so think Guardian lime green, but with a little more of almost like a yellow tone to it, kind of like if Guardian was a neon. So this one's going to be beautiful, and in our placement today, we're going to be putting Acid Spill right up against First Base. So we're going to have such an amazing contrast with those two colors being side by side. So this one is like very, very intense, almost like a jewel toned lime green. So we're going to see a lot of depth with it while still maintaining a really, really vibrant and bright end result. The third shade that we're going to be using is Iced Skater. This is our new sapphire shade. So to me, this feels very, very deep, but not quite as navy as Nightfall. So in my mind, it's almost like Nightfall and Tragic had a baby, right? It's a very beautiful, just completely jewel toned blue. Not quite as sheer as Tragic is, but definitely a lot brighter than Nightfall. Our fourth shade in Wild Ride is Cosmic Days. This is our new Periwinkle shade. So I always feel like Periwinkle is one of those highly requested colors that we had to make all of these different formulas for because nothing directly from the tube would really cut it. Thankfully, now we have Cosmic Days, which is the most gorgeous Periwinkle shade right from the tube. It's going to be more of a blue-toned purple than Lilac is. So it's almost similar to lilac and powder being mixed together. It's still got a nice kind of like pastelized look to it, but definitely just a little more on the blue side of a purple than the pink side. Our fifth and final shade from the Wild Ride collection is my personal favorite, Clouded. This is going to be our bright teal, and I'm really just like counting down the days until I can put this all over my own hair. So we do have a teal shade in Decoy, but comparing it to Clouded, Clouded is a little more on the true teal side, where I think Decoy tends to go a little more to the green side of teal. It's also going to be a little bit lighter and just brighter all around. It's not going to have quite as much depth. So it may feel a little pastelized, but not quite as pastel as powder either. For our sectioning today, we're going to take a series of 5 stacked sections in oval shapes. For our first oval, we're going to start about 1 inch back from the hairline so we can come in and create that nice money piece that all of our clients want right now. We're going to start at the part and just take this all the way around in an oval shape. This will give us a nice veiled look, showing all 5 of our Wild Ride shades in a complementary setting where they can really feed off of each other to give us a really gorgeous end result. So our first oval, again coming about 1 inch back from the hairline, circling all the way around back to the crown of the head, and meeting back up and connecting on the other side. For our second oval, we're going to be continuing the same exact placement, just stacking it a little lower than our top oval. This one we will start right at the hairline and carrying all the way back and around the head, following the shape of our first oval. We're going to come and clip all of this hair up right on top of our first oval, because when we start applying our colors, we're going to be dropping an entire section at a time, and that will give us just really clean subsections to work through so we know exactly what shade we're going to be putting where. Our third oval will follow the same pattern as our first 2 shapes. So starting at the hairline and bringing it all the way back and around underneath our second oval. And you can really use this technique and placement for any kind of color palette that you want. It doesn't have to be done in 5 sections, but we chose 5 sections today because that's how many shades we're going to be working with. So if you want to try this placement with 4 shades, you'll just adjust your subsection size to accommodate for 4 sections instead of 5. If you're doing a technique that calls for 6 or more formulas, you'll just adjust each oval for each color shade that you're going to be using in your palette. And again, we're going to just be securing this third subsection up and just clipping it right on top of our second subsection. Our fourth subsection is going to snag this last little bit of hair right around the hairline and circling back around to the other side. And then our fifth and final subsection will just be the remainder of the hair left at the nape of the neck. If it's a little easier for you to manage, you absolutely can separate these subsections so you have 2 on each side if you don't like the feeling of having them all clipped together. As long as you feel comfortable with the amount of hair that you're working with and the amount of hair that you're sectioning out, that's going to be a great way for you to achieve this look. And our fifth and final subsection is going to be this remainder of hair right around the nape of the neck. So this is where we're going to be applying clouded. Our fourth oval, working from the bottom up, will be where we apply Cosmic Days. Our third oval is going to be where we're applying Ice Skater. The second oval will be our first base, and the top oval that's going to be right on the part line of the hair is going to be Acid Spill. So working from the bottom up, we're going to be starting with our fifth and final color block. And because this is a color block placement, we're going to be applying one of our formulas in each section. So each section has its own formula given to it totally. We're not doing any kind of like color melting, blending, anything like that. And we're just going to be applying this in basically an all over color application. So starting with clouded, we're going to start by just applying this around the perimeter. And look at how freaking amazing this color is already. It really is like the perfect like cloudy sky blue color. I'm like honestly ridiculously obsessed with this one. And we're just going to work through by applying around our perimeter and then going through section by section until we've completed this fifth and final subsection. Now again, clouded is our bright teal. So if you've used decoy before, I'm sure you've seen that decoy is a teal, but it's definitely a little more on the green side. This is leaning a little bit more of a blue teal. So if you are using this shade, I would definitely recommend applying the shade over a good pre-lightened canvas. You don't want to use this over a color or over a starting point that has a lot of orange in the hair, because that orange is just going to neutralize and cut out that blue shade. So the lighter and cleaner canvas that you can apply clouded over, the better your result is going to be. And then that's going to come back to kind of your basic color wheel knowledge, right? Like if we're applying over a canvas that has a lot of warm tones in it, we may feel like clouded is going to go a bit more to the green shade because we have that yellow in the hair mixing with the clouded color. So if you're in that situation where you're working with a client that maybe has a lot of yellow tones left in her hair, you may want to pre-tone or even mix a little purple into your formula to help counteract that warm shade as you're applying your bright teal formula. So what I'm doing now is just going back and forth and applying clouded from roots to ends. And one major thing that we always want to be aware of when working with the Pulp Riot semis is that we're not overworking our product and we're making sure that we have complete saturation all the way through. If you overwork any of the Pulp Riot semis, you'll see our colors start to turn a little whitish. And that's just basically reverting that color back to its conditioner base, right? Like we're overworking that pigment out of the hair. So we're seeing that conditioner base start to come out. And if you do overwork your Pulp Riot semi, you'll end up with these really unflattering hollow spots where your color will look a little bit splotchy. So just make sure when you are working with these, as well as the rest of the Pulp Riot semis, that you are using enough color, you're saturating it all the way through, and you're not overworking that product into the hair. So I'm going through making sure that I hit all my perimeter lines up around here. And just applying this all the way from root to ends, just like I would any single process all over color application. This is why color blocking is one of my favorite techniques to do. Aside from kind of like bolder looks just being really on trend right now, it's honestly just such an easy application process for us because we're not spending so much time working through different shades and trying to like blend those together or melt them together. We're really just doing an all over simple single process color. So now we're going to continue just going through these sections until our entire fifth oval is completely saturated. I'm going through just outlining this perimeter. That's one of my favorite tips that I learned in cosmetology school that I still use to this day, is whenever you go through and outline your perimeter, you're going to make sure that you don't have any pieces that you've missed on the sides or around the edge of your base. So I love going through and just going ahead and outlining to ensure that I don't miss any spots that throw off my entire look afterwards. So we're going to go through and continue to work all of this through our fifth subsection until we've completed it. Then we'll be able to go through, drop our next section, and continue on with our next formula. Now that our bottom subsection is completely saturated from roots all the way down to the ends, we're going to drop our fourth oval subsection and do the same technique where we're applying that color all the way down, all throughout this section. Now, because our Pulp Riot semis encapsulate, where they form that nice little shell around them, I don't have to worry about trying to separate this section from the next section. Because of that little shell that we're going to get, we're able to just go through and apply these colors and drop them right on top of the other without having to worry about any transfer or any bleeding, any of those issues that we may run into when doing different colors side by side. Now, because this section is a lot wider around the head than our first subsection was, I'm going to just go ahead and separate this into two sections so that way I just have a little bit more control over the hair that I'm painting. Now I'm going to be coming in with our periwinkle shade Cosmic Days, going ahead and outlining this whole subsection and then working through from roots to ends, just like we did in our first subsection with Clouded. So this is our periwinkle shade, and for this to be such a light blue purple, the amount of coverage that we get with this color is so phenomenal. Now, even with Cosmic Days having such good coverage, because this is a periwinkle shade, we know that a periwinkle is going to be a mix of a purple and a blue. So ideally, you would still want to apply this color over a clean level 9 or 10 without a ton of warmth in the hair. So if you lighten your client and are seeing a lot of yellow orangey tones, you may want to continue lifting them or pre-tone beforehand so you can get the true effect of this color without it just toning the canvas that you're applying on. So now I'm going to continue working around the head. In this section, just applying Cosmic Days from roots to ends, making sure that I'm outlining the section and getting full saturation, just like we did with Clouded, to make sure that our color comes out very consistent all the way through. When you're choosing what subsections you're going to work with throughout your oval shapes, make sure that you are doing what you feel confident is getting saturated. So I know kind of standard all over color application width is going to be about 1/2 inch, but if you're working with a client that has very dense or very thick hair, you may want to cut that down to 1/4 inch. But as long as you feel confident that you can fully saturate that section, that's going to be mainly what you're looking for. So for Ariel's hair, even though I'm painting this entire oval in the same color, sometimes I will cut this down into even smaller subsections just to make sure that I'm working that product all the way through and I'm not going to leave any hair without our color on it. Aside from Cosmic Days being such a beautiful color on its own, just like with all of our semi-permanents, all of these colors are intermixable. So for me, working behind the chair, I'm very excited to use Cosmic Days as an additive to some of my other colors because it's the perfect toning shades to neutralize warmth. So for example, if I was applying Clouded, and I felt like the hair starting point that I was going to be applying Clouded over was a little too warm, I think mixing Cosmic Days in with Clouded to cut warmth while you're applying your bright teal shade would be an amazing option to help tone and control warmth while you're applying your targeted color. Now we've just finished applying our Cosmic Days section. So again, placement for this was our fourth oval or second from the bottom because we are working our way up. So we've just started at the hairline, worked our way all around this oval, and underneath we have our clouded processing here. I'm so excited, and I really wanted to put these two tones close together because I feel like having these light, kind of like softer pastel vibes and that blue and blue-purple color range will just really work well off of each other and complement each other, and I'm so excited to see it dry already. So next we're going to be going through our third oval sectioning. We're going to drop all of this and still apply the same exact way we've been applying from roots to end all throughout the section in whatever subsections you feel most confident working in. Our third formula is going to be our Iced Skater, which is a sapphire blue. And this one, just looking at it right in the bowl, is honestly such a bright, kind of like electric blue. Like it feels like Blue Muse, but jewel toned, right? So we're just gonna start working this through. Again, I like to do that perimeter, especially when color blocking, just to make sure we don't miss anything. And right off the bat, I mean, look at how intense this color is. Like just such a, honestly, like true to tone sapphire blue. So now we're just going to be working this all throughout our third oval section. Now, one thing I do want to mention when you are doing this color placement is be aware of how much color you're making in each bowl. So since Ariel has such long hair, I know it feels very natural to mix a ton of color in each bowl, but keep in mind that we're only using each color in one of our subsections, right? So we don't need a bowl full of color for each section because we're only going to be working through that subsection. So a little bit goes a long way, and that way we just avoid wasting a ton of our product if we mix a bowl full, you know, kind of thinking, well, she has a long hair, we're gonna need a ton of product, and then throwing it away because then we remember, oh yeah, even though her hair is long, we're only doing one small section in her entirety of hair, right? So just be attentive anytime you're color blocking or working with multiple bowls of colors, just to not over pour, because then you can always go back and mix more as needed. This color is so beautiful. I'm like literally dying painting each one of these strands on. On the hair, it's showing like exactly kind of what we compared it to at the start, right? It's not as dark as Nightfall, not like a whole navy color, and not as sheer as Tragic, but it's still got that glow like Blue Muse. So it's literally like all of my favorite Pulp Riot blues had a baby, and then Ice Skater was born. Keeping in mind while we're applying, we do want to make sure that we're still saturating all the way through, even though this isn't as sheer as Clouded and Cosmic Days is. Saturation when working with semi-permanents is always going to be key. Because Ice Skater is such a saturated jewel tone shade, it will most likely cover very well even if you're applying on a warmer canvas. I would still recommend, just like with all of our semis, to start with levels 8, 9, 10. I feel like that will show probably what you're anticipating the most, being true to tone when you're working on those lighter levels, just because we don't have a ton of pigment on the hair to kind of feed into what that tone is going to look like. So anytime you can work on a cleaner starting point without a lot of warmth in the hair, you're going to see, you know, kind of what you're anticipating and that true shade of what your box looks like, right? But the cool thing about working with jewel tone shades like Ice Skater being sapphire is because they are such a heavily saturated tone, right? They're not like as sheer as some of our pastels and some of the more translucent colors are, is they just cover so well. So even if you are working on hair that has a slight bit of yellow to it or isn't a complete, solid, clean level 10, you're going to get a good end result with Ice Skater just because it is such a saturated tone. When you're working through this color placement, you can choose any shades to work with in your palette for this color because we're not blending any of these together, right? Just one of the other beautiful things about color blocking, none of our colors are actually going to be meshing together. So even if you're working with highly contrasting colors, like if I had done a section of orange underneath this sapphire blue, because we're not melting those two or blending them together, we're going to get that bright, nice contrast without having to worry about them neutralizing or browning out whatsoever. So we're going to kind of see that come into action in our final two ovals up at the top, because that's where we're going to be doing first base, which is our hot pink, and acid spill, which is our lime green. So color blocking is a great way to get these highly impactful, contrasting shades on the same head of hair without having to worry about them not working well together in your end result. And coming back to how our Pulp Riot semis encapsulate, rinsing these out is going to be a total breeze. It's absolutely one of my favorite things about working with the Pulp Riot semis is just how easy they make my job. And we will go into how to rinse out after our color is complete. But just because of that encapsulation, we really don't have a lot to worry about with these colors bleeding or transferring whatsoever. We've just finished up our third oval section, and look at how amazingly these colors are playing off of each other. I think having these three underneath is going to be such a beautiful trifecta of complementary colors. And then in our top two sections, we're going to take our two final shades from Wild Ride to get a really nice contrasting, bold effect. So moving into our second oval, or fourth from the bottom, we're going to be doing the same technique all throughout, but this time we're going to be using first base, which is our new hot pink shade. Just to maintain control of this section, I am going to go ahead and just split it into two pieces. And now that these sections are getting very, very wide, I'm finding it easier just to go ahead and clip half of it out of the way so it's not flopping over into hair that I'm not ready to paint yet. So let's go through and start off with our first base here. This color, y'all, I really cannot wait for you guys to actually see this and try it for yourselves. It really is like the perfect blend of Cupid and Candy. So Cupid is our just traditional tried and true pink shade. Candy is our neon pink. And my go-to pink shade in the salon is equal parts of Cupid and Candy. And that is exactly what first base is reading as. It's just so bright, but it's still definitely a true pink shade, right? So I know a lot of the feedback that I hear from other artists is that Candy is so bright that sometimes it translates as almost looking a little too much on the orangey side just because it is such a bright neon pink. So this feels very much like Candy, but just balanced out. So it's still super, super bright, super intense, but end of the day is a pink without a shadow of a doubt. Now this section is really cool and probably the one that you want to pay the most attention to when you're selecting what colors are going to go well in your oval color blocking placement, because this is the section that's going to determine what color your money piece is, right? So I chose this one based on what color I wanted to see the majority of right around Ariel's face. And even though I think I've done just about every single color possible on her. I really like the way pinks work with her skin tone and eye color. So that's why I selected first base to be in the second oval. So we can have that nice bright pink money piece coming down and framing her face. It's gonna be absolutely beautiful. So same thing as our previous sections with the technique, applying from roots to ends, making sure we're getting full saturation with our colors and working our way through this entire subsection. I'm gonna start turning her around so I can actually show you guys the painting of the money piece in this section. So I am gonna be working my way forward. And when you're going through and applying these, you can apply in whatever direction or order, again, feels comfortable and feels like you have the most control of. I typically start in the back and kind of wrap around the sides from there. And in just a second, we'll be coming into our face framing piece. So I can show you guys really what I mean about why this second oval is so important. So now we're moving into the last section of our second oval. And as we can see here from where this wrapped around to the side of the head, this is where our money piece is going to be. This is the very front of the hairline, so it's right in that kind of tried and true money piece section, right? So that's why choosing your color for your second oval is going to be so important, because whatever color choice you go with in this second oval is going to show in your money piece section. So we want to make sure that your client is comfortable with whatever color you're choosing to put there. We don't want to put, you know, a bright orange money piece if they hate seeing orange on themselves, you know? So definitely in your consultation, make sure that you're asking your client kind of what color or what vibe they want to go for in that money piece section. Or if you are, you know, working with someone that's given you creative freedom, then just make sure that that second oval is the color that you want that money piece to be, because that's what's going to show up right around in that face frame section. But the way this placement is laid out is really cool, because you get that bright pop of money piece, but then the rest of the second oval is veiled underneath your first oval. So everything in this second oval except what's right around the face will definitely pop through, give you like a nice kind of peekaboo vibe, but not be too over the top. But you will see it right in that face frame section. So here especially, just like with the rest of our perimeters, we do want to make sure that we're kind of taking our time and paying attention to the details through here. So when I'm outlining this section, I want to make sure that I'm getting very close right up to that section line without overlapping on our top oval. So that way we get that nice clean line work that we love to see in any kind of color blocking technique. So after we've finished this section, we'll go through and move into our final oval, the one right on top that we're going to see the majority of in this color placement. And today we're going to be doing acid spill at the top. So having that hot pink and that lime green side by side is going to give us such a cool contrast, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. We've just finished up our first base section. So now all we have left to do is paint the remainder of this hair, which we sectioned out into our first oval, with our lime green shade acid spill. To make this pretty easy on myself, I'm just going to follow the part line, which we are doing a middle part for Ariel today. If you are attempting this color on someone that wears a side part, you'll still want to take your ovals in the same way, but just frame them around wherever they part their hair. So if they part their hair on the side, your ovals will go more of this way, and that way you get the same final result, regardless of where your client parts their hair. For this last one, we're going to continue doing the same thing, where we apply this all the way through, getting our perimeter nice and clean and making sure that we have that nice line work that we love to see in any color blocking technique. Now this lime green is so intense. It does feel like Guardian, but instead of being kind of like a jewel toned lime green almost, this is like the neon version of Guardian. So this one I feel has a little more yellow to it, and also it's just very, very bright and just honestly like neon reflective looking. So we're going to work all the way through, and while we're working through this section, let's go over what we're going to do for processing and rinsing. So Wild Ride is just like any of our other Pulp Riot semi-permanents. So after we finished our application, we're going to let this sit right at room temperature. You don't need to put them under heat, you don't need to put them under a dryer, anything like that. Just let them hang out comfortably in your chair right at room temperature for 25 to 40 minutes. After your processing time is complete, you're going to want to rinse your client with the coldest water possible. Here in South Florida, we only get kind of like lukewarm room temperature water, but just do the best you can. However cold you can get your water, go ahead and do that rinse in the coldest water you can get. You're not going to shampoo, and also tell your client to not shampoo their hair at home for 48 hours after they leave the salon. But conditioning is optional. So since our semis are all conditioner based, you may not feel the need to do a conditioner after you rinse out your color. But if you would like to do a conditioner, if it's someone with maybe coarser, thicker, drier hair and you feel like they would benefit from having a conditioner put on, it's not going to damage or affect your color in any way. And as far as home styling goes, we want to make sure that we're advising our clients to always use cool water when they're rinsing their hair at home. Make sure that they are using a heat protectant and cutting down on heat styling altogether, because anytime that they're putting heat on their hair, we're opening that cuticle a little bit, which is going to push that semi-permanent off of the hair. We also want to make sure that we're advising our clients to cut down on how frequently they shampoo their hair. So I like to recommend to my clients that they don't shampoo more than twice a week. If they are new to Vibrance and aren't using a dry shampoo yet, that dry shampoo is going to turn into their best friend. But one of the cool things with the Pulp Riot semis is even when you do shampoo your hair, whenever you do shampoo or get your hair wet, it's going to fade that color a little bit each time, right? But one of the best things about the Pulp Riot semis is our semis are formulated to fade true to tone. These colors are made to fade. When these shades were created, we know as hairstylists that these colors, any semi-permanent color is going to fade, right? It's not a permanent, it's not going to stay on the hair forever, and you're going to see some fading. So what the Pulp Riot semis do is fade true to tone. What that means is whatever color you apply with the Pulp Riot semis, as you shampoo and as this color is fading, it's going to just turn into lighter versions of itself. So our pink, for example, as Ariel is shampooing her hair, we're just going to see it kind of turn into lighter shades of pink, and over time, go back to whatever your starting canvas is. Most scenarios, your starting canvas will be a blonde shade, and typically after a few months of shampooing this color, the hair will be back to almost a perfect blonde, depending on what you started with. So sometimes whenever you go into the deeper, more jewel tone shades, there will still be a little bit of a residual leftover color, but that can easily be removed with blank canvas, which is our semi-permanent dye remover, right? So lots of different options for how you can maintain these colors, but I do always like to let my clients know that if they want to really extend the longevity of these semi-permanents, that they're going to want to cut down on heat styling, cut down on shampooing and water exposure in general, and make sure that they're always using a color-safe shampoo and conditioner. My go-tos are Bangkok and Tokyo from Pulp Riot. Those are our original color-safe shampoos and conditioners and are perfect for maintaining more vibrant looks like these. And here is our final look from the new Wild Ride collection. I was seriously going blind trying to dry this color because they are so vibrant and so intense, but I'm just really like beyond in love with how all of these colors complement each other, but you have so many options to use these in different scenarios, mixed together with different other shades, just so many different creative options that we're going to have with this new line. So with this placement, one of my favorite things is no matter how Ariel wears her hair and different ways that she shifts this, you're going to see so many of these different colors coming through. So we're just left with a whole rainbow variety of all of these different tones. Even when the tones don't necessarily, kind of come to your mind as being complementary, even when they're a little more drastic, they still have such a good blend and flow and come together to create something just honestly totally magical.